Blast me to Bermuda! It's time for a Mad Merlins Imperium special. Hello everyone and welcome to a Mad Merlins special. Today we have our first character pack for the Imperium and it focuses on Inquisitor Greyfax. So there's a really nicely done kit, magazine. It's got not a lot of information about the character, but it has a really good hobby section. So I'm giving this a really good rating. So we will go through the magazine. We'll take a look at the frame, and then we will build her, as there is some tricky components in this kit you've got to be careful with. The build guide does say to dry fit a lot, and I will suggest you do this. I will possibly be leaving her in about 3 sub-assemblies, just so I can reach all that detail a little easier. So let's go vertical. We'll take a look at the frame first of all. We'll go through our magazine, and then we'll begin the build guide. So here we have our frame up and close and personal. So we also get a 32mm round base for her. Just pretty basic. And then we do get the model itself. And it's pretty good. It is oozing with Inquisition symbols, really fine filigree, and plenty of characterful detail. So we got her rim of her hat and her head there as 2 separate components. So be careful when gluing this, as you don't want to accidentally get glue on her face and obscure any detail. So the components I'm going to be leaving separate is going to be this entire arm. I'll glue the gun fully together, but I'm going to leave that off in order to reach all the detail that would otherwise be obstructed. And I will most likely be leaving her backpack as a separate component as well, and glue that on afterwards, just to make reaching all the folds in the cloak a lot easier and highlighting. But she's got lovely detail, skulls, ribbing, plenty of banding. Her corset, she's got an inquisitorial eye on her belt there, hanging from a set of rosary beads. She's got a frag and a crack grenade there, and she is also equipped with psych out grenades, but I don't think these are depicted on the model itself. Yeah, really good model. Lovely power sword there with, again, some nice inlaid filigree and raised detail there to pick out. So pretty cool there. But yeah, really good character, and I can't wait to build and paint her. But first, let's take a look through the magazine. There isn't a lot to cover, but we will go through everything one section at a time. So here we have a magazine, and it is really nicely done. Nice character picture there of Greyfax herself. Looking very menacing. It is classified, so you only have, if you don't have proper clearance, you can't read this magazine. But luckily, I have that such clearance. So here we go. So first off, we've got a little bit of background information on Greyfax. So, Inquisitor Greyfax, a servant of the Ordo Hereticus, Katerina Greyfax is merciless in her persecution of heretics and traitors to the Imperium. During the course of her service to the Inquisition, she has found herself at the forefront of some of the 41st millennium's most momentous events. Inquisitor Greyfax has faced many hardships during the course of her loyal service to the Ordo Hereticus. For several centuries, she was a prisoner of the Necron overlord Trazyn the Infinite. Displayed as a trophy within his vaults, the coming of the 13th Black Crusade saw her released from her captor's grasp and thrust her directly into a battle for the future of humanity. Greyfax found herself embroiled in a series of pivotal events, including the fall of Cadia, the resurrection of the Primarch of the Ultramarines, Rabute Gilliman. With her honed combat skills, mastery of the psychic arts, and a burning hatred for traitors and Xenos, Greyfax has fought shoulder to shoulder with the Imperium's greatest heroes, proving herself their equal as Gilliman's crusade cut a path to holy terror. Though she serves the Ordo Hereticus, Greyfax reserves a particular hatred for the Necron race. Whilst imprisoned by Trazyn the Infinite, she was enslaved to the insane Overlord's will by mind-shackled scarabs. The Magos Dominus Belisarius Khul was eventually able to purge the scarabs from her blood, but the process was painful indeed, and Greyfax still harbours a burning desire for revenge against her captor. She rarely passes up an opportunity to battle Necron foes. In recent years, she has won renown for ruthlessly purging Necron forces in the vicinity of Ultramar. So, nice little bit of background information. So, we have a small blurb here. On Cadia, Greyfax served alongside Belisarius Khul and the pious Black Templars, and with the help of the Eldari and the Yanari, they used a webway portal to get as many people off-planet as they could. And they headed straight for Macragge, where they would eventually aid in the resurrection of Rabute Gilliman. One of the other characters that Greyfax has a bit of a connection to is Saint Celestine. So, Inquisitor Greyfax fought side by side with the living saint upon Cadia, and was initially mistrustful of her holy powers, sensing heresy in Celestine's supernatural abilities. Eventually, however, Greyfax came to grudgingly respect the saint, and the two have since fought alongside one another on many occasions to seek out and destroy the Emperor's foes. So yeah, they have a very deep connection. It was explored more in the Saint Celestine story and the Greyfax story. So if you haven't read those, give them a good read. Quite nice stories. The audiobook version, I believe, has Catherine Tate playing Inquisitor Greyfax. So, yeah, for those of you who know her, you can always imagine her voice whenever you sort of read anything about Greyfax. And finally, the last bit of information we have here is the Inquisition. Katarina Greyfax is an Inquisitor of the Ordo Hereticus, a ruthless hunter of heretics and those who seek to destroy the Imperium from within. She possesses a fierce intellect, which she uses to root out unseen threats to the integrity of the Imperium. Greyfax is utterly without mercy, and those who draw her suspicions rarely survive for long. So yeah, that covers pretty much the background of Greyfax. We do have a few more pages on Greyfax in the collection. I did try finding them, but I couldn't find them. The only one I did find was mainly focusing on Saint Celestine and had a small bit about Greyfax. But I'm sure we will get some more later on in the collection. So, moving on, we've got a battle record here for Inquisitor Greyfax. As one of the most venerable and renowned Inquisitors in the ranks of the Ordo Hereticus, Katarina Greyfax is armed with some of the finest weapons available to the Inquisition and clad in ancient reinforced armour. Thus armed, she is capable of doing battle with demons, psychers, and Xenos foes. So now we go into her war gear here. So she has a mastercrafted power sword. Drawn from the armories of the Ordo Hereticus, this expertly forged blade is centuries old but remains utterly lethal. She also wields a mastercrafted Condamore bolt gun. So this combi bolt gun features a crossbow capable of firing sanctified Purgatus stake bolts that can slay demons and witches with ease. And she also has Psych-Out grenades, so Psych-Out grenades emit clouds of shrapnel charged with negative psychic energy that are lethal to psychers. She's a member of the Ordo Hereticus, so the Ordo Hereticus are responsible for protecting the Imperium from internal threats. Inquisitors of this ordo hunt traitors, rebels, heretics, cultists, religious apostates, and rogue psychers. Commonly referred to as witch hunters, they have authority over the majority of other Imperial organizations and can use this authority to demand assistance. So, the militant arm of the Ordo Hereticus does luckily happen to be the Battle Sisters, and we have some of those in our collection, so she has her perfect bodyguard there as well. So on the other side, we can't fill out much, but we do have a D6 chart here to select her mission as to why she's in the Ramazar system. And then we have further boxes below, which we tick off when she has completed each of those submissions for her particular mission directive. So, the reason for Inquisitor Greyfax's arrival in the Ramazar system is a mystery to her Imperial allies. Suffice it to say that she acts with the full authority of the Inquisition, and has the power to command them as she sees fit. Regardless of her reasons for joining the Imperial war effort, she will surely turn her weapons and psychic powers to expelling the Necrons from the besieged system. So yeah, we just roll a dice and choose one of these, and then after that, we've rolled to determine the mission. Attempt to achieve the mission objectives listed below. When you have achieved an objective, tick the box next to it to show it's been completed. You can, of course, if you want, use her over multiple missions and go through each of these turn by turn. You can, of course, try to complete multiples in one game. But all in all, it's just a fun little additional narrative play to our collection. So next we've got our build guide. We'll come back to that in a minute. Really pretty straightforward. Can't go too wrong. Like I said, I will be leaving the arm and the backpack off just so I can reach all that detail. And then we got a rather in-depth paint guide. So it's pretty good, pretty straightforward and really detailed. So we start off with Leadbelcher, then picking out details from Mephiston Red, Screamer Pink, Ornfang Brown and McCrag Blue, and Corn Red on the cloak, before giving the model an all-over wash with Known Oil. Then after that, we start picking out all our black details and our gold details. And finally, the Runelord Brass, Rakar Flesh and Corax White. Then we can start picking out details such as the flame on her candle attached to the hat. And then we're moving on to our next stage of shading. So we're using Rakar Flesh shade to shade our gold and flesh as well as the candle there. Then we're using Known Oil to wash the candle wax and the various skulls dotted across the model. And then Agrax Earth Shade we're using to wash a lot of the parchment details that have done Rakar Flesh. And any Runelord Brass details that are done on her backpack as well. Next up, we need to do some relayering. So this is mainly on our parchment and the loincloth. So just relayering with Rakar Flesh and edge highlighting with Pallid Witch Flesh. After that, we start highlighting all the other colours. So Calgar Blue is used to pick out our blue details. Pink Horror on anything that was done Screamer Pink. Wild Rider Red on the bolt gun casing. Dawnstone on all our black details. And Evil Sun Scarlet is used as a final highlight on the insides of the cape, as well as the very tip of the candle there. So you have quite a lot of black detail to highlight, so just take your time going around the model and doing it steadily and as neatly as possible. If you do make any mistakes, of course, just tidy up with a little bit of Abaddon Black there. Our final highlights to apply is Stormhost Silver to all the silver and gold details. White Scar is used on highlighting her face and the skulls, as well as the candle. And finally, her hair is picked out with Baylor Brown. Final stages then, to add some extra detail to the model, is picking out the whites of her eyes of Corax White and holding your breath, carefully dot the pupil with Abaddon Black. Then we're putting Astrogranite over the base, just a thin layer will be enough to give detail. Shading it with Known Oil, dry brush with Administratum Grey, and then painting the base rim with Mechanicus Standard Grey. So here we have a nice finished gallery of the model, and on the reverse of this page, why not make use of a rather cool backdrop. So yeah. This magazine, like I said, has been really well done, and one of the best things I think it has included is this, as well as the back page instructions on how to photograph your miniatures. So this is a really nice handy guide. Pretty much any phone, tablet, even a digital camera will suffice for taking photos. You want to make sure you have a nice well-lit area. I've got a pretty much white light which has a diffuser on, so it blocks out as much shadow as possible. Make sure you zoom in or even take the photo from afar and then crop it afterwards. Why not set the scene by putting in a bit of scenery or maybe some enemies that you can be fighting. Make sure you find the golden angle to get the best view, and of course don't forget to make use of your camera's focus, because the last thing you want is a blurry Inquisitor. So yeah, that's pretty cool, really well done, and it's something that's always been overlooked with the past two collections. I'm really glad that they've done this, and I hope they do some more character packs like this as the magazine's been extended. It'd be nice to get at least one more. I'm hoping for Saint Celestine. So Hachette, if you're watching, give us Saint Celestine. She's such a gorgeous model, and it's been a long time since I've painted her. So yeah, lovely little backdrop. You can, of course, if you don't want to cut up your magazine, simply fold along here and then fold it in half, and then you have a nice little backdrop that you can use over and over. So finally, we've got a lot of rules here. So there's full rules pretty much for Inquisitor Greyfax. So the only things that haven't been detailed are Authority of the Inquisition, Quarry, and Unquestionable Wisdom. From what I've gathered online, these rules aren't exactly going to be integral to playing her, but Authority of the Inquisition just means that you can board any transport regardless of any keywords that transport has. So like Land Raiders can only transport Space Marines and Terminators, but can't transport Primaris, but you can transport Greyfax. And the same would apply to the Repulsor that can only transport Primaris Marines. Greyfax could easily jump in that. Quarry is, each of the Ordos has a particular quarry. In the case of Hereticus, it's mostly Psychers and Traitors, but it's basically a reroll when hitting and wounding those particular types of enemies. And Unquestionable Wisdom is you can use her leadership as long as you are within 6 inches of her. She also has a Refractor Field for a 5+ invulnerable save. She adds 1 to her Deny the Witch with Indomitable. And she has a Cyclum, so each time you select a target for your ranged weapon, you can ignore the Lookout Sir if you select a Psyker character or a Demon character. So yeah, so Psychers and Demons, watch out, she's going to target you no matter what protection you have there. So she'd be pretty good to use in the Premium Pack 1 mission with the Chaos Space Marines. So yeah, feel free to do as you wish with that. So she is a Psyker. She has the ability to cast 1 and deny 2. She knows Smite and Scourging. And we got a tutorial here for her attacks and psychic powers there. And we've got her keywords as well, and I did of course skip over her stats, so let's cover that quickly. So she's a unit size of 1, her name is Inquisitor Greyfax, movement of 6, weapon skill, ballistic skill 3, strength and toughness of 3, 5 wounds, 4 attacks, leadership 10 and a 3+ save. You can only include 1 Greyfax model in your army as she's a unique character. So she has a Condom bolt gun, so she has a standard bolt gun profile, 24 inches, rapid fire 1, strength 4, -1 with 2 damage. And she has her stake crossbow, so it's strength 4, -1, 2 damage, assault 1. And it does D3 mortal wounds if the opponent target is a Psyker in addition to its normal damage. And then she has her Psych Out grenades and Mastercrafted Power Sword there as well. Right. Let's get on and build her. So I'll just bring in my building table and I'll be right back. So we're all ready to begin our build. I've got my instructions in front of me so I can easily refer to them. So let's begin. So we want parts 1 and 2 first. So parts 1 is the back and her cape, and part 2 is her power sword there and the back of her loincloth. So we want to take our time cutting out these components. Be very careful with thin components such as the handle there. Don't want to accidentally put a strain on the model. There we go. Right, I'll get those cleaned up off camera. So we have our components clipped up and cleaned off. So next we want to line everything up. So we got a little nub and a divot there, and the same here. So you want to line those up, and we'll dry fit them for the moment just to test. But yeah, there we go. They go in like that. Perfect. So we'll apply a little bit of glue up underneath there and a dot there and there, just not too much, just enough that it will melt and hold the components in place. Line everything up again and push it in. So we'll leave that drying for the moment and we'll focus on our next component. So next up we want part 3, her front torso. So we'll cut that out and clean it up while we're waiting for parts 1 and 2 to finish drying. So there we go. Everything's dried in place and we can now test fit. So yep, that's going to go in just like so. So I'll put a little bit of glue just there and on the 2 sides of her body. Reline up and push it in. So we'll leave that to dry now and we'll start cutting out the legs. So parts 4 and 5 are her legs here. So we'll just start clipping them out. Like so. And I'll get those cleaned up. So make sure we have the correct legs. So part 4 is her left leg, and we got a triangle cutout section there which will go into the triangle slot there. So you want to make sure you dry fit so you know where the leg will sit. So yeah, that seems fine. We'll drop a little bit of glue in there and we'll push in her leg again, like so, and then we'll dry fit her right leg. So we got a little notch there and a little nub just on the inside there to help line everything up. And yeah, so we'll put the glue like that on her hip and then slot it all in. You even stand her up. So yeah, that looks fine. We'll just leave that to dry and we can start working on the first sub-assembly, which will be her right arm. So her right arm is part 7 here and part 8 the crossbow launcher. So just got 2 tabs to cut just gently cut it out. You don't want to damage anything because it's a very fine component. But there we go. That's that bit cut out. And now we got the bolt gun itself. So 1, 2, and 3 cuts. There we go. Now I'll get those cleaned up and we can start assembling. So there we have our 2 components cleaned up, and we can just test fit, like so. Bring in a bit of glue just along there. And push it in, making sure it's pushed together nicely and there's no gaps. And like I said, I'm going to be leaving this separate, but we can test fit against her torso. So yeah, we'll put a little bit of glue in that bowl and it'll fit on over that nub, like so. So yeah, I'll leave that to one side. So next we can look at her left arm. So we've got 2 components. We want parts 6 and 9. So part 6 is her left hand here. And part 9 is her shoulder pad. So yeah, cut those out and we'll get them cleaned up. So now those components are cleaned up, we have a little nub there and there. So we want to take part 9, her hand, and on the underside we've got a little dip just in there, and that glues on like so. So let's go ahead and do that now. Small dot of glue, and put the hand on first, pushing it up so that it sits flush. Yeah, like so. And then we got her shoulder pad. So on the underside we've got a little divot there. Put a bit of glue just in there. And then we got this nub here. That fits perfectly. Oops. Like so. That leg's coming a bit loose. There we go. Looking good. So next up we've got her backpack. So parts 10 and 11. So we've got 11 here, the exhausts, and part 10, the actual backpack. So there we go. I'll get those cleaned up. So there we go, nice cleaned up. So if we look on this side here, we got a little nub and a slot there. And on here, we've got a little divot and again a slot there. And if we line it all up correctly, it should fit in like so. So we can put a bit of glue there and there. Bring in the pipes and affix them in position. There we go, looking good. Now if we bring in her body, you'll notice we got this flat panel here with a little nub, and that'll just line up with the hole in the backpack there. Oops. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave this as a separate piece just to make painting a whole lot easier. So I'll leave that off to one side, and all we've got left to do is attach her head and glue her down to her base. So finally, parts 12 and 13 build her head. So very unlucky kit with 13 components, but hopefully she won't be jinxed. Touch wood and whistle. There we go. That's all empty and can be thrown away. So we'll get this cleaned up off camera and we'll be back to assemble. Okie dokie. So looking at the head, we've got a little lip just at the back there. And if we look at the underside of her hat, we've got a little indent there. So what you want to do is put a little bit of glue just on the front rim and along there. And then we can line up that back lip with that slot, gently pushing it into place. Wipe off any excess glue. And then that will be her head done. So we can now bring in her body. And we got a little triangle post there. Put some glue in the bowl. There's a little triangle slot in the back. So line it all up. And there she is, looking very imposing. Final bit to do is put a little bit of glue on her shoes. And find that golden angle on the base. I think just there, just so she overhangs enough to reach all the detail underneath her cloak. And there we have Inquisitor Greyfax ready for a painting session. So I am going to go build up some Lich Guard, so I got a bunch of models to spray at the same time. And I'm going to give her a coat of Lead Belcher and follow the paint guide exactly as the magazine details. Because if you follow on that paint guide, you really can't go too wrong. Although, personally, looking at the official models, I'd have used Runelord Brass on the areas that the magazine tells us to use Retributor armor, but I'm going to follow the magazine regardless anyway and do it that way. So with that, that's it for this video. So I'd like to take this moment to thank you all for watching. If you think I deserve it, please give this video a like. Leave a comment down below how you're getting on with perhaps your Greyfax model. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more mad content. So, thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.